Every marble you've ever held started as ordinary sand. Minutes later, that same sand becomes a glowing river of liquid glass, and within hours, it's transformed into a perfectly round sphere, almost impossible to manufacture by accident. Millions of them, every single day. But here's what nobody tells you. The process that turns raw silica into a flawless glass sphere? It's been hiding in plain sight for over 100 years, and it is wildly more satisfying than you'd ever imagine. Every fact in this video comes from verified manufacturing and scientific sources, not generic, not made up. Every link is sitting right there in the description below so you can verify every word yourself. This is a real educational deep dive, built to actually teach you something fundamental, something most people have held in their hand but never truly understood. Because today, we're going inside the marble factory. And we're not just watching machines do cool things, we're learning why those machines exist, how a handful of raw sand becomes something geometrically perfect, and what happens at every single stage of that transformation. And trust me, by the end of this video, you will never look at a marble the same way again. Coming up, we'll uncover how ancient civilizations first invented this idea thousands of years ago, how modern factories melt sand at temperatures hot enough to melt steel, and then, the one moment in the production line that nobody talks about, the step that makes or breaks every single marble ever made. Stay with me. It gets very, very good. Let's start at the very beginning. And I mean, the very beginning. Before there was a marble, there was a handful of sand. Not special sand, not rare sand, just ordinary silica, the same stuff sitting on beaches, riverbeds, and desert floors all over the world. And for thousands of years, nobody looked at that sand and thought, I could turn this into something perfect, until someone did. Here's a question. How old do you think marbles actually are? 10 years? 100? Try thousands. Archaeologists discovered marbles buried inside the tomb of an Egyptian child, dating back to around 3000 BC. Think about that. 3,000 years before the internet, before electricity, before the Industrial Revolution, a child was playing with small, rounded spheres. Not glass ones. Not yet. Back then they were made from nuts, clay, polished stone, even semi-precious materials like quartz. Ancient Rome had marble games. The Indus Valley civilization had them. Children across nearly every ancient culture, on nearly every continent, were rolling small rounded objects for fun, long before anyone had figured out how to make them from glass. So, why did glass eventually win? Because clay breaks down, stone is expensive to shape, nuts go bad, literally. But glass? Glass can be made cheaply, shaped precisely, colored beautifully, and it lasts. A glass marble made today will look identical 100 years from now. But glassmaking, that's where the story gets really interesting. The very first glass marbles weren't made in a factory. They weren't made by engineers or scientists. They were made by accident, or more accurately, by habit. Glass blowers, at the end of a long workday, would gather up every scrap of leftover molten glass. The offcuts, the waste, the bits that fell off during production, and instead of throwing them away, they'd roll them into small spheres to take home for their children. These were called end-of-day marbles. And today, those same scrap glass marbles are some of the most valuable collectibles in the world. But here's the problem with handmade marbles. They're slow, they're inconsistent, and a world that eventually wanted millions of marbles couldn't rely on glass blowers staying late after work. So the question became, how do you automate perfection? How do you take a process that requires human hands, human intuition, human feel, and turn it into a machine that does it faster, more consistently, and at a scale that would have seemed impossible just a century ago? That answer changed everything. Before we get to the machines, let's talk about what actually goes into a marble. Because this part surprises almost everyone. The primary ingredient is silica sand. But not just any silica, it has to be pure. Because any impurity in the raw material, any trace contamination, shows up in the final product as a flaw, a crack, a cloudiness that ruins the clarity of the glass. Alongside the silica, manufacturers add soda ash and limestone. The soda ash lowers the melting point of the silica, making it more workable. The limestone adds structural durability. It's what gives the final glass its strength. These three ingredients, silica, soda ash, limestone, are the foundation of almost every glass marble ever mass-produced. But here's something that almost nobody mentions. Many modern marble factories don't even start with fresh raw materials. They start with recycled glass. Old marbles that failed quality checks, defective pieces, returned batches. All of it gets thrown back into the system. Glass, unlike most materials, can be melted and reformed almost indefinitely without losing its properties. It's one of the most recyclable materials on the planet. So when you hold a marble in your hand, there's a real chance the glass has already been melted, shaped, cooled, and recycled more than once. You're holding something that has been reborn. Now, the moment you've been waiting for. The raw materials, silica, soda ash, limestone, and often recycled glass are loaded into a massive industrial furnace, and that furnace is cranked up to temperatures between 1200 and 1270 degrees Celsius. To put that in perspective, steel melts at around 130-70 degrees Celsius. We are melting glass at temperatures that would liquefy metal. Inside that furnace, something almost magical happens. The sand, that rough, granular, opaque handful of earth, begins to dissolve. It transforms into a glowing, molten liquid. Thick, radiant, moving like slow lava. Here's the part of the process most people never imagine. As the molten glass drains from the furnace, it flows downward in a continuous glowing stream. And below the furnace, waiting for it, is a shearing device. A precision blade that cuts the stream of molten glass at intervals of roughly half a second. Every cut produces what manufacturers call a slug, a small, roughly shaped portion of molten glass. Now, a slug is not a marble. Not yet. It's hot, it's irregular, it's shapeless. But it's about to become something remarkable, and it requires almost no human intervention to do it. Those slugs fall directly onto cast iron rollers, grooved, spinning rollers. And as the slug lands in those grooves and begins to roll, something extraordinary happens. The surface tension of the still molten glass, combined with the consistent rotation of the rollers, begins to pull the slug into a sphere. Naturally, automatically. Gravity and physics doing what human hands once had to do. And they have to cool in. Now, here's something that will genuinely surprise you. You'd think color would be the easy part. Add some dye, mix it in, done. But in glass marble manufacturing, color is the most unpredictable variable in the entire production line. Color is introduced by injecting colored glass, tinted with specific mineral compounds, directly into the molten stream before it's cut. Boron, lead, aluminum, sodium. Different minerals produce different colors. And the patterns you see inside a marble, those swirls, those ribbons, those cat's eye designs, are created by how the colored glass folds and twists as the slug is cut and begins to roll. But here's the part that nobody tells you. The exact same formula, the exact same minerals, the exact same temperature can produce completely different results on different days. Why? Because glass color is affected by atmospheric conditions, air humidity, ambient temperature, even the specific atmosphere inside the furnace on that particular day. Red glass is the most extreme example. The exact same red formula can come out bright orange one day. Remember, I told you in the introduction that there's one step in this process that most people never hear about. The step that makes or breaks every marble ever produced. This is it. It's called annealing. After the marbles have rolled and cooled on the cast iron grooves, they're not finished, not even close. Because here's the problem. The outside of a marble cools faster than the inside, and when the outer layer hardens while the inner glass is still contracting, it creates internal stress. Invisible tension locked deep inside the glass. A marble with internal stress looks perfect on the outside, but it's structurally compromised. It can crack, split, or shatter from nothing more than a slight temperature change or a light impact. So every marble, without exception, must go through an annealing oven. A carefully controlled environment where the temperature is slowly, gradually reduced over a specific period of time. Not fast, not dramatically, slowly, almost patiently. This controlled cooling releases the internal stress, equalizes the tension between the outer shell and the inner core, and transforms a structurally fragile object into something genuinely durable. It's the difference between a marble that lasts a lifetime and one that breaks in your hand. And here's what makes this step so fascinating. It's essentially the same principle used in aerospace engineering, in the manufacturing of optical lenses, in the production of scientific glassware used in laboratories around the world. The same physics that protects a marble from cracking protects the lenses in a space telescope. After annealing comes judgment. Every single marble produced is funneled through a quality control system. Channels and gauges that physically measure each marble's diameter, checking it against the acceptable tolerance range, typically within about 1 millimeter of the target size. Marbles that are too large or too small are pulled out of the line entirely. But it doesn't stop at size. Shape matters too. A marble that isn't perfectly round, even microscopically off-round, won't roll true, and a marble that doesn't roll true isn't a marble, it's a flaw. The rejected ones? They go back into the furnace, recycled, remelted, reborn. And the ones that pass? They move forward towards something most people never think about when they're holding a marble in their hand. So here's what we actually just witnessed. A handful of ordinary sand, the same material under your feet at the beach, was melted at temperatures that liquefy metal, cut by a precision blade every half second, shaped by nothing more than gravity and spinning grooves, cooled for 3 days straight, stress relieved in an annealing oven, measured to within a single millimeter, and rejected if it falls even slightly short. All of that to produce something that fits in the palm of a child's hand. But here's the insight that I want you to sit with, because this is the part that genuinely changes how you see this. A marble is not a simple object. It never was. It is the result of one of the most precise, most physics-dependent, most environmentally sensitive manufacturing processes in the consumer world. The same principles that build space telescope lenses, aerospace components, and laboratory instruments. Those exact same principles of controlled heat, controlled cooling, and structural integrity are embedded in every single marble ever made. And yet we treat them like they're nothing. We roll them across floors. We lose them under furniture. We buy bags of them for $2. That gap between what something is and what we think it is, that is what makes manufacturing so endlessly fascinating. The world is full of ordinary objects hiding extraordinary engineering, and the marble might be the most underestimated one of all. Drop a comment below. Tell me, what surprised you the most? Was it the annealing step, the color unpredictability, the fact that glass marbles have been around since 3000 BC, or something else entirely? And if you have a manufacturing process you want me to cover next, tell me that too. Every single comment shapes what this channel makes next. Your input is not just read, it directly influences what comes after this. If this video was worth your time, hit that like button. It takes 1 second, and it tells the algorithm that real research-backed educational content deserves to be seen by more people. And if you want to go deeper, if you want more videos like this, more factory floors, more processes that most people walk past every day without ever understanding, subscribe. We started this video with a question: how does ordinary sand become something perfect? And now you know the answer isn't magic. It isn't luck. It's 100 years of refined engineering, controlled physics, and an almost obsessive commitment to precision, applied to one of the smallest, most overlooked objects in the world. The marble earned its perfection, every single one of them. And somewhere, right now, a furnace is glowing, a blade is cutting, groove rollers are spinning, and a new batch of perfect spheres is slowly cooling in the dark, waiting to be held.